Hi everyone, Ben here from musictheoryacademy.com. In this lesson, we're having a look at composing in modes. And I'm going to take you through a 4-step process. There's nothing magical about this process, there's nothing particularly unique, but it just helps you go through a process to produce a composition that you're proud of. So step 1, pretty obvious first step, we need to choose a mode which we're going to compose in. Remember from the previous video, every mode has its own distinctive sound. Now I'm going to choose the Dorian mode. So I'm going to be starting on a D and ending a D on a D. So the D is what we call the final note of the mode. I like the Dorian mode. It gives a lovely it's got its own lovely unique characteristic, and it's a really enjoyable mode to compose in. So we're going to use the Dorian mode. So the first step is to improvise a melody. Now I'm obviously going to use the notes of the Dorian mode. Okay, but how do we go about improvising a melody? Okay, a few quick thoughts. Firstly, start and end on the final note of the mode. Okay, so I'm playing around, I'm thinking, right, I'm going to start and end on the final note. Keep it simple. Okay, as with any melodies, I don't necessarily want to be going crazy on the keyboard. I'm thinking of just some simple ideas. Okay, and then finally, try and work in 2, 4, and 8 bar phrases. It just gives a real sense of balance. So if I'm going to write in 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to try and keep in that sort of phrase. And as I was improvising this before recording the video, I came up with this 2-bar phrase. You can see I've started on the final note. It's quite simple. A lot of it moves in step. It only goes up as far as an A, and it's a nice, straightforward 2-bar phrase. I then felt like I needed another 2-bar phrase to finish it off. I'm going to start with the same idea, then play the first bar again, and then finish it off with a slightly different bar there. Again, all of that is nice and simple. I feel like we need something a bit higher, so we're going to go up to the top D now. And then finish it off. And I'm finishing on the final note. So let's have a listen to all of that together. Okay, it starts and ends on the final note. It's quite simple, but it has this nice sense of balance because it's got 2, 4, and 8 bar phrases. I love the Dorian mode. It gives this lovely wistful quality. So that's improvising a melody, and there'll be different ways that you want to do that. Some of you may do it vocally, some of you may do it guitar, piano, whatever it may be, but it's improvising that melody. So the next step, step 3, we need to add some chords to this piece that we're developing. Okay, so we're obviously going to think about the primary chords. If you're not sure about primary chords, I've done a video on primary chords. Just check that out before continuing with this one because it will really help you. Now, primary chords are chords 1, chord 4, and chord 5. Okay, those are the primary chords. So I'm going to be looking to use those chords to start with to harmonize this piece. So I'm going to start and end on chord 1. I'm also, to just start with, to keep it simple, whenever I see the final note, so whenever I see a D, I'm going to think about playing chord 1 because I know it will work. So if we harmonize that using that, we get this. we get in many ways this sort of drone-like sound. But you see, by doing that, we've already filled in a lot of the blanks. So how are we going to fill in the rest of the chords? Well, we're going to have a look at the cadences. Now, if you don't know about cadences, check out my video on cadences, which gives an introduction to them and will really help you before moving on to the next part of this video. There are two finished cadences, perfect and plagal, and two unfinished cadences, interrupted and imperfect. Now, I'm going to have a look and see what I can do with perfect cadences. So I'm looking for chord 5 to chord 1, and I can see straight away that I can fit one in that second bar. I can go chord 5 back to 1, which is great, and looking ahead I can do the same thing on the final bar of that first line. So I can go 5 1. That's fantastic. Now I'm going to jump to the end of the piece because I'm pretty sure I should be able to try and fit a perfect cadence in there. And yes, I can. Brilliant. So just by using perfect cadences, we've already filled in the vast majority of the harmonization. Okay, let's have a look at some of this other stuff, as I don't think I can fit any more perfect cadences in. So I'm going to try an unfinished cadence. Let's try an imperfect cadence, maybe from chord 1 to chord 5. So I'm looking chord 1 to chord 5, and I can see in bar 6 that I can fit that in. So it will go chord 1, chord 5. Great. So just by using cadences, I can see I've only got one space, and that's this B in bar 5 and the G. So I'm going to look at my primary chords. I say I've got a B, I've got a G. Well, there's only one chord that it can be. It's chord 4. So that's got to be chord 4 there. So if we put chord 4 there, that's fantastic. Great. So if we have a listen to this quickly all the way through. Oops, let's play it right. Great, that's starting to sound really good. So we can harmonize it using just the primary chords. Now with modes, there's actually something else we can do which is worth having a think about, because it really makes it sound quite cool and folky. We've looked at the primary chords 1, 4 and 5, but you can actually add in the Dorian mode another chord, chord 7. Which works really well. So if I harmonize it using chord 7, you get this. Here's chord 7. Which is a really, really interesting sound and is worth experimenting with. Now be careful with this one, because if you start to put a sort of drone sound in, which is quite folky, just be careful, particularly if you're writing as part of a course, because you will start to write what's called parallel fifths. And in traditional harmony writing, they are very much frowned upon. In folk music, or it's less so. But that's just worth just being aware of that. But an interesting harmonisation to do in chord 7. You could even then put in chord 5 after that. So have a play around with that. That's really useful. So we've got our chords. Step 4. We're going to add some other instruments. How do we do that? Well, if you want a melodic instrument of some sort, use the chords that we've put in place and use the notes from that. You could also put some rhythm instruments in, put some drums and that sort of thing. You put a guitar in, just playing the chords. Also put some counter melodies in there. You could have the tune playing this, and then you can have something up high. So maybe. Okay, just something over the top, and that needs a little bit developing, that idea, but you can see what we're trying there. The other thing I always try and encourage students to do is name your piece. You might want to name it at the end or name it going along. Think about what's the mood that you're trying to create. I've called this Mist on the Hills. It's not a particularly original title, but it just gives a feel for what I'm trying to do. Here, have a listen to this. I've just added in a few extra instruments just quickly to see how this piece might develop. So I really hope that's helpful for you, looking at composing in modes. Step 1, choose a mode. Step 2, improvise a melody. Step 3, add some chords. And then step 4, add other instruments. And my main encouragement would be to say, enjoy the process of experimenting, enjoy the process of composing. And I really hope this video has helped you in that.